The jungle seemed unusually quiet as Daniel and Lyra approached the heart of Valyrian territory. The twin suns shone brightly, reflecting off the metallic structures of the distant capital. They had traveled far, evading hostile factions, overcoming natural hazards and surviving ambushes that would have ended the lives of many others. But Daniel knew that the greatest challenge was yet to come. "Are you ready?" he asked quietly, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she focused on the distant city. "I am, but I sense tension. The kingdom knows I am returning and not all are happy." Daniel nodded. He had learned that courage alone was not enough. Intelligence, strategy, and trust were equally important. "We face them together. Whatever happens, we act as one." As they moved closer to the capital, the atmosphere became tense. The streets were filled with Valyrians, some loyal to Lyra, others aligned with factions that sought her removal. Daniel noticed whispers and glances directed at them. Lyra walked with confidence, her enhanced abilities allowing her to sense both allies and potential threats. They entered the central plaza, where a crowd had gathered. A high-ranking official stepped forward, flanked by armed guards. "Princess Lyra," he said, his tone polite but firm, "your return is unexpected. Some question your authority after recent events." Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear and commanding. "I am alive and I have returned. My survival is not a matter of luck, but of courage, trust, and determination. I choose my path and I will lead my people." Daniel stood beside her, his presence calm yet firm. He could feel the tension in the crowd shift slightly, as if his courage and confidence were radiating outward, influencing the emotions of those around him. Humans were underestimated, yes, but here, in the presence of the Valyrian citizens, he could see that his actions had already begun to change perceptions. One of the rival faction leaders stepped forward, his expression cold. "This human aided the princess. Does that mean the kingdom now bends to your choice?" he asked, his voice dripping with challenge. Lyra turned to Daniel. "You have done more than anyone else could. Your courage, your willingness to act, has saved my life and strengthened me. I will not hide that, but now, we face those who question us together." Daniel nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. "I only acted as any human would, protect those in danger. But we will face this, together." The rival leader's eyes narrowed, but he could sense something unusual. Daniel did not act out of fear or ambition. He acted from principle, courage, and determination. The loyalty and bravery of humans were unpredictable, and that uncertainty unsettled even the most confident Valyrians. Lyra stepped forward, raising her hand to command attention. "People of Valyra," she said, her voice echoing across the plaza. "Recent events have shown the strength of unity, courage, and trust. I have returned because I choose to lead, not because I am forced. I stand here with one who has proven that bravery knows no species." The crowd murmured, uncertainty spreading among the faction supporters. Daniel's presence beside Lyra symbolized something larger. Human courage and action could not be dismissed. He had acted selflessly, and that action had not only saved a life but inspired others. The rival faction leader attempted to rally his supporters, but Lyra's confidence and Daniel's calm strength created a shift. Citizens began stepping forward, showing support. Guards who had remained neutral now pledged loyalty. The power of choice, courage, and unity began to outweigh fear and ambition. Lyra turned to Daniel, her voice quiet but filled with trust. "Your actions, they have changed the course of this kingdom. Human, your courage is extraordinary. I see it now not just in deeds but in principle. You embody what our people aspire to: strength, integrity, and bravery." Daniel felt a swell of pride, but he kept his focus. "It is not about praise. It is about action. We act and the consequences follow. We cannot control everything, but we can choose what is right." As the confrontation reached its peak, Daniel realized something profound. Humans were underestimated not because they lacked strength or skill, but because their courage was unpredictable. Their ability to act selflessly, to make choices guided by principle rather than fear or ambition, made them formidable. Lyra had survived, not just because of her enhanced abilities, but because a human had chosen to risk everything for her. The rival leader finally stepped back, realizing that the momentum had shifted. Lyra's supporters rallied behind her, and Daniel's calm confidence influenced the perception of both the citizens and the guards. The factions' challenge faltered, and the city recognized the undeniable truth. Lyra was the rightful leader, and Daniel had proven the extraordinary capabilities of humanity. As the crowd began to disperse, Daniel and Lyra moved to a quieter area. She turned to him, her glowing eyes reflecting both gratitude and admiration. "You have done more than save my life. You have shown me and others the true potential of humans. Your courage, your choices, they have made a difference that no one expected." Daniel shook his head humbly. "I did what I had to do, but yes, I think humans can achieve great things when we act without fear, guided by principle. And today I saw that power manifest in ways I could not have imagined." Lyra's hand brushed his, a gesture of trust and connection. "The bond we share? It is extraordinary. Your blood, your courage, your spirit, they have changed me. I am stronger, wiser, and more aware because of you. And the kingdom, it will not forget what humans are capable of." Daniel looked at her, realizing that their journey had created something far beyond survival. It was a connection that transcended species, one forged through courage, trust, and action. He had come to Valeria as a human among aliens, cautious and curious. Now he stood as a symbol of bravery, unity, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. The days that followed were filled with celebration and planning. Lyra consolidated her power, bringing stability to her kingdom. Daniel worked alongside her, offering guidance, insight, and above all, courage. Together, they faced remaining threats, negotiated with factions, and ensured that the bond between human and Valyrian would serve as a bridge for future cooperation. Lyra's abilities continued to grow, influenced by the human blood that had saved her. She could sense shifts in political sentiment, detect subtle changes in the environment, and anticipate potential threats before they became dangerous. Daniel's presence beside her ensured that decisions were guided by principle, courage, and insight, demonstrating the unique advantages humans brought to interstellar affairs. In the quiet moments, Daniel and Lyra reflected on their journey. From the jungle where he first offered his blood, to the heart of the capital where they faced political rivals, they had forged a bond stronger than either could have imagined. Trust, courage, and selflessness had proven more powerful than fear, deception, or ambition. Lyra turned to him one evening as they watched the twin suns set. "You have given me more than life, Daniel. You have given me strength, clarity, and a connection that will guide this kingdom for generations. Humans, you are extraordinary." Daniel smiled softly. "I only did what I had to do, but yes, humans are capable of more than anyone expects. Courage, choice, and action, that is our strength. And together we have shown it can change worlds." As the stars emerged in the night sky, Daniel realized the truth of his own journey. Humans, often underestimated, possessed a resilience and courage that could alter the course of civilizations. His actions had saved a life, forged a bond, and influenced an entire alien kingdom. The legacy of that choice would endure far beyond the jungle, far beyond Valyria, and perhaps one day across the galaxy. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of both gratitude and recognition. "We began as two unlikely allies," she said softly. "Now we are partners. And the future. The future is brighter because of courage, trust, and choice." Daniel nodded, feeling the weight and wonder of those words. Yes, and humanity has only just begun to show what it can do. The night passed peacefully, the stars above shining as witnesses to the extraordinary bond between a human and an alien princess. Their journey had begun in desperation and danger, but it ended with hope, courage, and the undeniable proof that humans could rise above expectation, face the unknown, and change destinies across worlds. For Daniel, Lyra, and the kingdom of Valyria, the future was filled with promise. Courage had saved a life, trust had forged a bond, and humanity had proven that no challenge, no threat, and no distance in the galaxy could diminish its potential. The story of a human giving his blood to an alien princess had begun in a jungle, but its impact would echo across the stars forever. The first light of Valyria's twin suns crept through the thick jungle canopy, casting golden streaks across the cave floor. Daniel stirred awake, careful not to wake the princess. Lyra was still sleeping, her breathing steady now, her injuries clearly healing faster than any human could have imagined. He had expected her to be fragile, still weak from blood loss, but the infusion seemed to have strengthened her in ways that were hard to understand. Even in her sleep, there was a quiet power about her. Daniel sat on a smooth stone, keeping watch over the cave's entrance. The jungle was alive with the usual morning symphony of sounds, but Daniel's eyes scanned for any signs of danger. The world outside was beautiful yet unforgiving, and he knew that the factions within Lyra's kingdom wouldn't have given up their plans to eliminate her, just because she had survived. After several minutes, Lyra stirred and opened her glowing eyes. For a moment she looked disoriented, then recognition dawned. Her gaze fell on Daniel and she tried to push herself up. Daniel moved quickly to support her, gently helping her sit upright. "You are stronger than I expected," he said with a reassuring smile. "Your wounds are healing fast." Lyra studied him, her eyes narrowing slightly in thought. "It is unusual," she said slowly. "Your blood. It has changed something. I feel different, not weak, not like before." Daniel nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure what she meant. Some humans carry enzymes in their blood that can react differently with alien biology. "It seems yours responded to mine in a way no one anticipated." She looked at him, her gaze intense and curious. "No Valyrian has ever survived this. They would have died. You saved me. I do not know how to repay you." Daniel shrugged. "I did what anyone would do. I could not let you die alone. Courage isn't about thinking of repayment. It's about doing what is right." Lyra seemed to study him carefully, as if weighing the truth of his words. "You think like a Valyrian, yet you are human. Perhaps that is why." Her words trailed off and she leaned back against the cave wall, still cautious but not hostile. Daniel knew there was little time to rest completely. He needed to move her to a safer location, somewhere closer to Valyrian territory but hidden enough that no factions could find them easily. He helped her to her feet, noting that she could walk with only slight support now. As they moved through the jungle, Lyra's senses seemed heightened. She would pause suddenly, tilting her head, sensing movement or sounds that Daniel could not detect. At first he thought it was the natural alertness of someone recovering from trauma, but then he realized she could detect subtle changes in the air, even sensing predators before they appeared. "Your perception," Daniel said cautiously. "It's different. Can you feel what is happening around you more clearly than before?" Lyra looked at him, surprised. "It is as if I can sense the intentions of those nearby. Not clearly, not fully, but I feel shifts, movements, emotions." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. The infusion of human blood hadn't just healed her. It had enhanced her in ways he could barely explain. The human enzyme had triggered changes in her biology that were extraordinary. A bond that no one had ever seen. They walked for hours, navigating treacherous terrain filled with hidden roots, quicksand-like mud, and predatory creatures. Daniel's survival training helped them avoid traps, and Lyra's new awareness allowed her to detect hidden dangers, pointing out movement in the shadows or subtle vibrations in the ground. Together, they became an unlikely but effective team. As the day wore on, they reached a hidden plateau overlooking a river that cut through the jungle. The location was ideal. High ground, clear sight lines, and difficult for anyone to approach unnoticed. Daniel helped Lyra settle near a small waterfall that provided fresh water, and they shared a quiet meal from his rations. "You've done more than heal me," Lyra said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of gratitude and amazement. "You've changed me. I can feel it. I can think more clearly, sense more, even anticipate danger better than before. Your blood, it is remarkable." Daniel smiled, though he felt a twinge of worry. "I don't fully understand it either. But whatever has happened, you are alive. That is what matters." Lyra looked at him, and for a moment the intensity in her gaze was almost overwhelming. "Humans, you are brave in ways Valyrians cannot always be. You risk yourself for others without hesitation. Perhaps that is why this bond works." Daniel shook his head. "It's not about bravery. It's about choice. Anyone could have walked away. I chose not to. That's all." She studied him in silence for a long moment, then finally nodded. "Choice. Yes, that is significant." Their conversation was interrupted by a faint rustling in the bushes below the plateau. Daniel's instincts immediately went on high alert. He signaled Lyra to remain still and crouched low, scanning the shadows. The rustling grew louder and out stepped a group of humanoid figures, Valyrians, but not the kind Daniel had hoped to see. These were armed, wearing dark uniforms that marked them as a faction loyal to rivals within the kingdom. One of them stepped forward, pointing at Daniel. That human. He has captured the princess. Daniel stood slowly, hands raised. I am protecting her, he said firmly. I do not seek conflict. We are not your enemies, the lead figure sneered. She is our princess. You interfere at your own risk. Lyra stepped forward, her own injuries no longer slowing her. There was a strange intensity in her gaze. I am the princess, she said firmly, and I choose to live. This human saved me. He is not my enemy. The faction members exchanged confused glances. They had expected to find a helpless princess, but instead, she stood strong, protected by a human who seemed calm, confident, and unafraid. Daniel took a careful step forward. You will not harm her. I do not know what your intentions are, but any attack will be met with force. I am not just a human, I will defend her with everything I have. Lyra's voice softened, but there was no hesitation. Do not underestimate humans. We have much to learn from their courage. The faction leader hesitated, then signaled his group to fall back, muttering under his breath about reporting to higher authorities. Daniel and Lyra watched them disappear into the jungle. For now, the immediate threat had passed, but both knew it was only temporary. As the suns began to set, casting long shadows across the plateau, Daniel and Lyra made camp. The princess's strength continued to grow, her senses sharper than ever. She moved with grace, her mind clear, her determination evident. You have changed the course of this kingdom, Daniel said quietly as they settled beside the waterfall. I only did what I had to do. Lyra smiled faintly, a mixture of gratitude and wonder in her expression. It is more than that, humans. You are unpredictable, resourceful, and courageous. You see the world differently. That is why you survived where others could not, and perhaps why we are now connected. Daniel felt a strange warmth in her words. He had never expected that a simple act of giving blood could lead to this. The bond between them was growing, stronger than either of them understood. It was more than survival. It was trust, respect, and perhaps the beginning of something extraordinary. Night fell over the jungle, and the plateau glowed softly under Valira's twin moons. Daniel kept watch, alert to every sound, every movement. Lyra rested beside him, still tired but alert enough to sense any danger. For the first time, he felt that humans and Valyrians could truly stand as equals, bound not by politics or duty, but by courage, trust, and choice. As they drifted toward sleep, Daniel reflected on the day's events. He had come to Valyra as an explorer, a human among aliens, curious and cautious. But he realized that his courage, his willingness to act, had already changed the course of events in ways no one could predict. The bond he had formed with Lyra was unlike anything in human history, and it would have consequences far beyond this jungle, beyond this planet. For now, though, the night was quiet. The stars shone brightly, the jungle whispered its ancient songs, and a human and an alien princess rested together, bound by blood, trust, and courage. Tomorrow the challenges would return. Factions would plot, dangers would rise, and their journey would continue. But Daniel knew this. Humans were capable of more than anyone, alien or human, could imagine. And with that knowledge, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The morning light filtered through the dense canopy, casting soft golden rays across the jungle floor. Daniel woke to the sound of Lyra moving quietly nearby. She was no longer weak or fragile. Her movements were deliberate, precise, and filled with a new strength he had not seen before. The blood infusion had not only healed her, it had enhanced her senses and abilities. He had expected her to be cautious, but she now moved with confidence and awareness, scanning the surroundings as if the jungle itself had become a map she could read. Daniel stretched and quietly approached her. You're moving faster than I expected, he said with a small smile. Lyra turned, her glowing eyes reflecting the morning light. I feel capable, strong. A part of me is different, and I do not fully understand it yet. But I can sense more, see more, feel more, Daniel nodded. It is remarkable. I did not expect that the human blood would affect you like this. It seems we are linked in ways no one has seen before. She looked at him, a mixture of awe and curiosity in her expression. Linked, yes. I can sense your presence even when you are not beside me. It is subtle, but I feel your intentions, your thoughts. Courage. Daniel felt a chill of realization. The bond was deeper than he had imagined. It was not just about healing. It was about connection, understanding, and a new kind of trust that crossed species barriers. He did not fully know what it meant yet, but he understood that this connection could change everything for humans and Valyrians alike. They moved carefully through the jungle, heading toward a location Daniel had scouted from above, a series of natural caves hidden along the cliffs near a waterfall. It was a perfect place to hide, defend, and observe. As they walked, Daniel noticed subtle changes in Lyra's behavior. She reacted faster to sounds, predicting the movement of small animals and even sensing when the ground shifted beneath them. "You are faster, more aware than before," Daniel remarked. "Do you think it is the blood?" Lyra paused and looked at him seriously. "It is more than the blood. It is the bond we share. My body has changed, yes, but my mind, I can think in ways I could not before. It is as if your courage and determination have touched me, strengthened me." Daniel felt a sense of pride, though tempered with caution. "That is incredible, but we must be careful. Others will notice, and not everyone will welcome these changes." His warning proved true sooner than expected. As they approached the hidden caves, Daniel sensed movement behind them. Shadows flickered between the trees, and Lyra stiffened, her eyes narrowing. "They are following us," she said quietly. Daniel crouched, scanning the area. A small group of Valyrian soldiers appeared, clearly sent by one of the rival factions still loyal to those who had tried to kill Lyra. They were armed, disciplined, and confident that they could overwhelm the two humans. But Daniel's experience and Lyra's enhanced perception gave them a unique advantage. "Stay behind me," Daniel whispered. Lyra nodded. The soldiers moved closer, their eyes focused on capturing the princess. Daniel's heart raced, but his mind remained calm. He studied the terrain quickly, noting vines, roots, and uneven ground that could be used to their advantage. He gestured to Lyra, pointing toward a narrow path along the cliff that led to the caves. As the soldiers advanced, Daniel called out, "Stop! You will not harm her," the lead soldier sneered. "Step aside, human. She belongs to the kingdom and you are interfering." Daniel held his ground. "She chooses her own path. I will not let you control her or harm her." Lyra stepped forward beside him, her presence now commanding. "He speaks the truth. I choose to live and I choose who protects me. You may not take me." The soldiers hesitated, unsure of what to do. The princess was speaking with authority, but the human standing beside her radiated confidence and determination that none of them expected. Daniel realized that humans were underestimated on this planet, often dismissed as fragile and weak, but his presence, his courage, and his resolve were challenging their assumptions. One soldier lunged forward, but Daniel was faster. Using the uneven terrain, he pushed the attacker into a tangle of vines, using momentum and leverage rather than strength alone. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, and she moved with remarkable agility, intercepting another soldier with a swift motion that forced him to stumble backward. Together, they formed a team that no one could predict. The soldiers, now realizing that brute force alone would not win, hesitated and exchanged anxious glances. Lyra's presence, combined with Daniel's cunning and courage, created a barrier they could not easily overcome. Slowly the soldiers retreated, leaving the human and the princess standing side by side. Daniel exhaled, tension leaving his body. "That was close," he said, though inside he was already thinking about the next steps. Lyra turned to him, her glowing eyes reflecting admiration. "You are remarkable. Humans are capable of more than I imagined. You think, you act, and you do not hesitate when it matters." Daniel smiled, though he felt a strange weight of responsibility. "It is not about thinking myself remarkable. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That is what matters." The two continued toward the caves, finally reaching the hidden entrance. Inside, the cool darkness offered relief from the heat and humidity of the jungle. Daniel helped Lyra settle, and she observed the cave with a keen eye. "This place is safe," she said quietly. "Few would find it, and even fewer could navigate the cliffs without falling." Daniel nodded. "It is the perfect spot for now. We can rest, plan our next move, and prepare for whatever comes next." As they settled, Lyra's mind began to explore the changes within her. The infusion of human blood had unlocked something that Valyrian scientists had never anticipated. She could sense subtle shifts in energy, emotions, and movement. Her thoughts were clearer, her reflexes sharper, and her awareness of danger heightened. She realized that humans, though physically weaker, possessed a unique resilience and adaptability that even her own people could not match. "You are teaching me, human," she said softly, "not just by words but by example. Courage, determination, and the willingness to act. These are things humans carry naturally, it seems, and now, a part of that is within me." Daniel looked at her with surprise. "I didn't mean to teach you anything. I just acted, but I am glad if it helps." Lyra's expression softened. "It helps more than you realize. You are changing the way I see humans. You are changing the way I see myself. I will not forget this." They spent the rest of the day resting, sharing stories about their worlds. Daniel learned about Valyrian culture, their traditions, and the delicate political balance within their kingdom. Lyra learned about human ingenuity, determination, and the history of survival against overwhelming odds. Each story, each moment of conversation, deepened their connection and mutual respect. As night fell, the jungle became quieter, but the air was still alive with subtle movements. Daniel kept watch near the entrance of the cave while Lyra rested. She was no longer the fragile princess he had found in the jungle. She was strong, alert, and capable of defending herself, yet he knew that the dangers were far from over. Rival factions would not abandon their pursuit, and the bond they shared, while powerful, could draw attention from unexpected places. Daniel reflected on the events of the day. He had come to Valyria as an explorer, a human among aliens, curious and cautious. But through courage, quick thinking, and selflessness, he had proven something extraordinary. Humans were capable of more than anyone had expected. Even in a world of advanced alien technology and abilities, human adaptability and determination could change the course of events. Lyra stirred slightly and opened her eyes. "Tomorrow we must plan carefully," she said. "There are those who will come for me, and we must be ready. But now rest. We are stronger together than apart." Daniel nodded. He felt a quiet confidence knowing that their bond, forged through courage and trust, would be their greatest strength. The night passed with both of them alert yet calm. A human and an alien princess united by circumstance, courage, and the beginnings of an extraordinary connection. As the first rays of sunlight crept through the canopy, Daniel understood something profound. Humans were underestimated, yes, but their true power lay not in raw strength or technology alone. It lay in their courage, their choices, and their willingness to act when others hesitated. Lyra's survival was proof of that, and together, they would face whatever challenges the galaxy had in store. For now, though, the jungle was quiet. Daniel and Lyra, two unlikely allies, rested in the hidden cave, preparing for the trials that would come. Their bond, formed through selflessness and courage, had only begun to show its potential. The days ahead would test them in ways neither could predict. But Daniel knew one thing clearly: humanity had a place among the stars, and he was ready to prove it. The morning mist hung low over the jungle, weaving between the towering trees like silent, shifting spirits. Daniel stood at the edge of the plateau, scanning the horizon. His senses were alert, every sound, every movement carefully noted. Lyra had been awake for hours, stretching and moving with confidence. The infusion of human blood had enhanced her beyond what Daniel could have imagined. Her senses were sharp, her reflexes faster, and her presence now radiated a strength that commanded attention. "We cannot stay here forever," Daniel said softly. "The faction will not give up. They will keep looking for you." Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the jungle below. "I know, but the jungle protects us for now. They will not find this cave easily." Daniel studied her, noticing the way her posture had changed. She was no longer the fragile princess he had rescued. She was alert, aware, and almost fearless. The transformation was remarkable. Yet Daniel knew that power alone would not protect them from political intrigue and the relentless pursuit of their enemies. They decided to plan their next move. Daniel suggested reaching the border of Valyrian territory, where loyal soldiers could provide assistance. Lyra agreed, but they needed to move cautiously. They packed light, carrying only essentials, and set out through the dense jungle, their steps silent but determined. As they moved, Lyra began to explain more about her kingdom and the political tensions that had nearly cost her life. "There are factions," she said quietly, "that believe I am too young, too inexperienced to lead. They sought to eliminate me before I could take full control. But now, After what has happened, their plans will fail. Daniel listened carefully. You have the power and the intelligence to lead, Lyra. And now with this bond between us, you have an unexpected advantage. She glanced at him, a faint smile playing on her lips. Yes, the bond is unusual, even for Valyrian science. The human blood has given me strength, clarity, and perhaps insight I did not have before. I can sense danger, anticipate actions, even feel intentions. Daniel's mind raced. The implications were enormous. Humans, often underestimated in this galaxy, had the potential to influence events in ways no one expected. Their adaptability, courage, and now biological compatibility with alien species could shift balances of power. Hours passed as they navigated the treacherous jungle, avoiding hidden traps and natural hazards. Lyra's enhanced perception allowed her to detect subtle shifts in the environment. A predator moving silently through the trees, a hidden pitfall covered by foliage, even vibrations signaling distant footsteps. Daniel marveled at her abilities, realizing that human courage combined with Valyrian perception could create a formidable team. As they approached a narrow gorge leading toward loyal territory, they heard the faint hum of engines in the distance. Lyra froze, her glowing eyes scanning the terrain. They are coming, she said. A faction scout team. They will try to intercept us before we reach safety. Daniel immediately assessed the situation. The gorge was narrow with steep cliffs on either side. They could use the terrain to their advantage. We can funnel them here, he said quietly. They cannot approach us without being visible. We will force them to expose themselves. Lyra nodded, moving instinctively to position herself at the most strategic point. Her heightened senses allowed her to predict the scout team's movements before they emerged from the jungle. Daniel followed her lead, staying just behind, ready to intervene. The scout team appeared armed, confident, and expecting an easy capture. But Daniel and Lyra were prepared. Using the terrain and their combined abilities, they outmaneuvered the scouts. Lyra's speed and precision were unmatched, and Daniel's strategy and quick thinking allowed them to neutralize the threat without unnecessary violence. When the last scout retreated, Daniel turned to Lyra. You are incredible. I've never seen anyone move and think like that simultaneously. Lyra smiled faintly, though there was no arrogance in her expression. It is the bond. Your courage, your instincts. They have awakened something within me. I am stronger because of you, and I am learning to trust that strength. They continued toward the edge of Valyrian territory, moving quickly but cautiously. Along the way, Lyra's abilities continued to manifest in subtle but powerful ways. She could sense distant movements, detect changes in the jungle's energy, and even anticipate weather shifts. Daniel realized that the human blood had not only saved her life, it had enhanced her entire being, creating a connection between species that could change the course of history. As night fell, they reached a hidden valley near the border where loyal Valyrian soldiers were stationed. The soldiers, initially skeptical of Daniel's presence, quickly realized his value when Lyra demonstrated her enhanced abilities and credited him with saving her life. The humans were no longer seen as weak or expendable. They were allies, capable of shifting the balance of power. The soldiers welcomed them cautiously, and Daniel used the opportunity to rest and gather intelligence. Lyra explained the internal threats within the kingdom, detailing the factions that sought her downfall. Daniel listened intently, realizing that the challenges ahead were as much political as they were physical. During the night, Daniel and Lyra sat by a small fire, discussing their next moves. We must prepare for the attempts that will come, Lyra said. They will not accept my survival or this bond quietly. I must be ready to face them, and you must be ready too. Daniel nodded. We will face them together. Humans have been underestimated for too long. Our courage, our willingness to act, and now this bond will be our strength. Lyra looked at him with admiration. You have taught me more than I expected. Not just about courage, but about trust, determination, and choice. I will not forget this, Daniel. He smiled softly, feeling the weight of their shared responsibility. Neither will I, but remember, the days ahead will test us in ways we cannot yet imagine. We must be vigilant, smart, and brave. The night passed uneventfully, but both remained alert. The bond between them was now undeniable, a mixture of trust, shared experience, and mutual respect. Daniel realized that humans, often dismissed as weak, possessed a unique combination of qualities: adaptability, courage, and intelligence that could influence even the most advanced alien civilizations. As dawn broke, Daniel and Lyra prepared to move further into Valyrian territory. Their journey was far from over, but they had proven that courage and determination could bridge worlds. The factions seeking to eliminate Lyra would not give up easily, but the bond they shared was now a force neither could ignore. Lyra glanced at Daniel, her eyes glowing faintly in the morning light. "We are ready," she said quietly. "Whatever comes next, we will face it together." Daniel nodded. "Yes, together." And as they stepped into the dense forest once more, the twin suns rising behind them, both understood that the true test of courage, trust, and strength was only beginning. The days ahead would challenge them physically, mentally, and emotionally, but they were ready. The human had proven his worth, the princess had discovered new strength, and together, they would face whatever the galaxy could throw at them. For the first time, Daniel felt that humans could not only survive among the stars, they could thrive, influence, and even inspire. And Lyra, the alien princess, would carry that lesson with her, forever changed by the courage of a single human who had risked everything to save her life. Daniel crouched low behind a thick cluster of purple-leaved bushes, listening to the distant roar of the jungle. The alien planet of Valyria was alive with sound. Strange birds with iridescent wings calling to each other, insects buzzing with a low hum that almost seemed mechanical, and trees shifting slowly as if the wind was moving beneath their roots. Every sense Daniel had was alert. The humans were guests on this planet, welcomed cautiously by the Valyrian leaders, but danger lingered in the shadows. One wrong step could trigger disaster. Daniel's mission was simple on paper: survey the jungle for resources, gather intelligence about potential threats, and maintain a fragile alliance with the Valyrian kingdom. In practice, it was far more dangerous. Every step forward was a mix of curiosity and fear. The thrill of discovery tangled with the knowledge that a single mistake could be fatal. He adjusted the strap of his pack and glanced at the small device strapped to his wrist. A faint red light blinked. Energy readings were normal, life readings nearby stable, but there was an unusual spike just a few meters ahead. Daniel's eyes narrowed. That spike didn't match any natural creature he knew of. His instinct screamed caution. As he moved forward carefully, the jungle thickened. Massive vines twisted like snakes around ancient trees, and the ground beneath him was soft, almost sponge-like, hiding roots that could trip an unwary traveler. Daniel paused when he noticed movement out of the corner of his eye. A figure crouched and trembling appeared ahead. His heart skipped a beat. It was humanoid, but clearly not human. The figure's skin shimmered with a soft, silvery glow, and long, delicate limbs hinted at agility and strength. Wings, or what looked like wings, folded behind her, feathers catching the dim sunlight filtering through the dense canopy. Her clothing was torn, revealing bruises and scratches across her shoulders and arms. The Valyrian princess. Daniel knew immediately who she must be. Despite being a species that humans barely understood, Valyrians were recognizable to anyone studying them. Regal bearing, pointed ears, and eyes that glowed faintly in certain lights. And she was badly wounded. Daniel swallowed hard, trying to calm the racing of his heart. "Princess Lyra," he whispered under his breath, remembering the intelligence briefings. "You're alive." He stepped closer, making sure his movements were slow and deliberate. Valyrians were cautious, and even a gesture of help could be misunderstood. But as he knelt beside her, he realized the situation was desperate. Her breathing was shallow, and her skin, normally a healthy silver lavender, had dulled to a pale gray. "Lyra," Daniel said gently, "I can help you. Just stay still." Her eyes fluttered open, revealing a storm of pain and confusion. Daniel held up his hands, palms outward, in a universal gesture of peace. She hesitated, her glowing eyes flicking over him, assessing, questioning. Finally, her body relaxed just enough for him to approach. He inspected her injuries quickly. There were deep gashes along her arms and legs, and one wound on her side bled profusely. Daniel knew that in human terms she might survive with immediate first aid and rest. But Valyrians had a unique physiology, and he remembered the briefings that mentioned their need for specific enzymes for life-critical healing. Some humans carried a rare version that could help. He had no idea if he had enough in his own blood, but it was the only chance. Daniel opened a small medkit and drew a clean blade, carefully cutting a tiny vein on his arm. He watched as a few drops of his blood fell into the bowl he had prepared, then carefully applied it to her wounds. The reaction was almost instantaneous. Her breathing steadied slightly and the color returned faintly to her skin. She gasped and looked at him, eyes wide with shock. "Human," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You can give your blood?" Daniel nodded. "It's the only way I can help. You'll be stable soon, but you need to rest. No one else can reach you here safely." The princess's hand trembled as she touched his arm. "You saved me." Daniel smiled faintly, though his chest was tight with worry. "No one should die alone," he said simply. For several long minutes they remained in silence. Daniel cleaned and bandaged the worst wounds, all the while keeping an eye on the jungle around them. Danger could come at any moment, predators, rival factions, even environmental hazards, but for now, there was a fragile moment of trust forming between a human and an alien princess. After the immediate danger seemed to pass, Daniel helped Lyra sit against a sturdy tree. "You need to tell me what happened," he said. "Who tried to hurt you?" Her glowing eyes flickered downward. It was an ambush. A faction within my kingdom. They wanted to overthrow me. I escaped, but they—" Her voice faltered. "They didn't care if I lived or died." Daniel frowned. Humans understood betrayal, politics, and greed. But seeing it in another species was sobering. "You're safe now," he reassured her. "I'll make sure of it. But we need to move you somewhere safer." Lyra looked at him with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Why would a human risk himself for me?" Daniel shrugged lightly. "Courage doesn't belong to one species. Sometimes it just happens." Her eyes lingered on him, and for the first time she didn't look at him as an outsider. There was respect there tinged with awe. Daniel realized that this simple act, giving his blood, had done more than heal her body. It had bridged a gap that words or treaties never could. They moved carefully through the jungle, Daniel supporting her as best he could. The journey was slow, but each step strengthened the connection forming between them. Daniel's knowledge of the terrain kept them safe, while Lyra's senses, though dulled by injury, helped them avoid predators. Hours passed, and the alien sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Daniel finally found a natural cave that was dry and hidden from view. He helped Lyra settle inside, using his pack and some branches to make her comfortable. She leaned back, exhausted but alive. "You've done something incredible," Lyra said softly. "No Valyrian has ever survived with human blood before." This bond." Her words trailed off as she closed her eyes, exhaustion taking over. Daniel watched her, feeling a strange mix of pride and concern. "Rest," he said. "Tomorrow we figure out the next step. But for tonight, just survive." As darkness fell, the sounds of the jungle surrounded them. The stars above shone brighter than Daniel had ever seen from Earth. He realized that while this planet was dangerous, filled with unknown creatures and political intrigue, it had also shown him something extraordinary. Human courage, when offered selflessly, could save lives, bridge worlds, and change destinies. Lyra stirred slightly in her sleep, and Daniel felt a subtle warmth, a quiet acknowledgement of gratitude and trust. The bond created by blood, by courage, and by choice had begun. No one on Valyria expected what would come from a human offering his life for an alien princess, and Daniel himself did not yet understand the magnitude of what had just begun. Outside, the jungle seemed alive with whispers, as if it recognized the unprecedented event that had just taken place. Daniel's thoughts drifted to the unknown, the factions that sought her death, the political chaos of the Valyrian kingdom, and the reactions of humans back on Earth when they learned of this bond. But for now he allowed himself a moment of quiet triumph. In that cave, under alien stars, two worlds had connected, and a human had proven something remarkable. Courage and selflessness were not limited by species. And as Daniel sat guard, watching over the sleeping princess, he knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge both human and Valyrian understanding of life, loyalty, and bravery.